guys, welcome back to another Vlogmas video. Today's going to be a little bit different. We're not going to be doing a vlog. Instead, I decided that I wanted to talk about breastfeeding. So if you're a guy or someone that's not really interested in having kids or anything like that, this might not be the most interesting video to you, and I'm sorry about that, but hopefully you'll like the next one. I thought it was important for me to make this video for myself to look back on the next time I have a baby, but also because I have had 8 months of ups and downs with breastfeeding. It has definitely been a journey, and I never expected it to be as difficult as it has been, but it's also incredibly rewarding. So I want to talk about that, and I just want to go through basically from the beginning up until now where I am. I'm still breastfeeding, and Rhys is 8 months old. So let's go back to the beginning. Rhys was born at 10:04 at night, and he was born via an emergency C-section. So after I had him, I couldn't put him right onto nurse, but I knew that I wanted to nurse right away as soon as I could. And so they just kept testing to see when I got feeling back, and they wouldn't let me nurse until I had feeling back, just to make sure I could feel like that the baby was sucking properly and everything. I think that took probably an hour, I'm thinking, after Rhys was born. I don't really remember the times. It was kind of a blur that night, but it was probably about an hour. And then the nurse said that I could try to get Rhys to latch on. So we did that, and I had no idea what I was doing. It was my first time, but right away Rhys latched on, and it was good, and he nursed for a really long time. Throughout the night, I woke up and had to nurse Rhys, and it was going really well. Fast forward to the next morning, and throughout that day, my nipples started to get really purple, and they started to get really sore. So the nurse offered me to be able to speak with the lactation consultant, and so she came in that afternoon, and she kind of helped me with positioning and everything. And my mom also helped me. She has had 6 children, and she's breastfed all of us. So I listened to what my mom had to say, listened to what the lactation consultant had to say, and I kept trying that, and my nipples just kept getting worse and worse. They started to like really dry out and kind of get like chapped. And I'm not making this video to say that like breastfeeding is what you need to do or anything like that. Like if you didn't breastfeed, that's totally fine. That's what worked for you, and but for me, breastfeeding was incredibly important. That was something that I really wasn't willing to not do. It was something that I knew I 100% wanted to do. I think because I'm the oldest of 6 children, and I watched my mom throughout my entire life nurse babies. That's like the greatest picture I have of my mom, is nursing her babies and taking care of her babies. So to me, that was so important, and so I was determined to get this, and determined to put up with the pain, I guess. And I knew it was probably gonna hurt in the first few days. I didn't know how much. And I didn't expect how much it was gonna hurt. It hurt so bad. By the second day in the hospital, the lactation consultant came in again. She said the latch looked really good, but my nipples were still getting purple, and by this point, by the second day, they were actually starting to scab over, and they were starting to bleed a little bit. I just thought they're not used to this, because I've never had a baby before, I've never nursed before, and that, you know, in a few weeks they will toughen up and it's not going to hurt anymore. And that's kind of what my mom told me too. She said just hang in there, because it just takes a few weeks for your nipples to toughen up from being sucked that hard all day long. I was nursing about every 25 minutes, every half an hour, for 15 minutes at a time on each side. So I really wasn't getting a big break. Like he would nurse for 15 minutes. No, it wasn't 15 minutes. No, it was about 20 minutes on each side. So he'd nurse for 20 minutes, nurse for 20 minutes, so that's 40 minutes. And then I'd get about a 20-minute break to go to the bathroom, have a drink of water, maybe eat something, and then he'd be right back at it for another 40 minutes. So I wasn't getting a big break, and he's my first child, so again, I don't know if that's the case for everybody, or if that was more for me or less for me, I'm not sure, but that's what it was for me. And the lactation consultant came in for a 3rd time, and she kept saying, you know, the latch looks really well, or looks really good, and she didn't really know why I was starting to bleed and things like that. And I had these like purple blood blisters everywhere. It was not good. And she looked at them and she said, oh no, your nipples are compromised right now, and this is not good. Like they wanted me to go from like cradle to football, you know, putting them facing this way and then this way, lots of different positions just to make sure they're hitting all the milk ducts and kind of like dividing up the pressure on the nipple. When she said that my nipples are compromised, I was like, oh my gosh, my nipples are gonna fall off. I literally thought that meant that like they were gonna scab so bad, and they were scabbing and peeling off, and it seemed like chunks of my tissue were almost coming off. So I really thought like I wasn't gonna have nipples anymore. And so we went home from the hospital. Within a couple days of being home from the hospital, they have home nurses that come to your home, so then you don't have to leave with your brand new baby who's only a few days old. For the first visit, they were coming to just do their regular checkup they do for all moms, and then the second visit would be to take out my stitches. So by now, I think Rhys was 5 days old when they came to our house, and I explained to them how badly my nipples hurt, and I showed them, and they said the same thing. Oh, your nipples are compromised. They said his latch looked really good as well, and his weight was going up really well, so he was getting enough food. And oftentimes if there's something wrong with the latch or something like that, the babies won't be gaining weight because they won't be sucking enough milk out. But they said no, his weight and everything was going really well. They said to me that they thought maybe he was lip tied, so that means that, you know, if you feel right there, you have that little web. They were thinking it was attached too far down, or, you know, too tightly. They were saying his lip looked really tight, and so maybe it wasn't able to flip up properly. And they told me to get a nipple shield, and I had heard horror stories about the nipple shield, about how people had used them and then their babies didn't nurse for very much longer after that, or they wouldn't nurse without the nipple shield. I can't remember now what all my worries were, but I was really stressed out about it. And I told them I didn't really want to do that, and they told me they had never heard those things before. So I thought, okay, you know what, I'm gonna give it a try because I'm in so much pain right now. And it was at the point where like chunks of dried scab and blood were coming off while I was nursing Rhys. And then, you know, when babies spit up, he'd spit up and there'd be chunks of it in his vomit. And I told him about that too. Or I shouldn't call it vomit, like his spit up. But and I told them that that was happening too, and they said that that's okay, that's normal, it's not bad for him or anything. They told me what size to get. It's the 24 millimeter, and they said to get the Medela. So I have one out of the package that I had used, and then I never ended up using this one. So that's what it looks like, just like that. And the baby sucks out of there, and it just protects your nipple. And there's little holes where the milk would shoot through, and so I tried it, and immediately the entire thing filled with blood. No milk, nothing. It was just filled with blood, and just the sight of that and everything freaked me out so much. And I pulled Rhys off right away, and I told Steve, I'm done, I'm not gonna use this thing, I don't like it. And it didn't even like, and it still hurt, like it didn't help with the pain or anything. So I was like, this isn't for me. That evening I was in so much pain that every time I breastfed, I cried. And I would literally like shake my hands and my toes, like my feet would shake, my legs would shake. Like I was just like moving all over, trying to stop myself from the pain. I would like squeeze things. As soon as he would go on, I had so much anxiety about putting him on, because that's the part that hurt the most. That when I knew he had to eat, like I would kind of almost like hyperventilate. I'd kind of have like a little bit of a panic attack, because I knew what kind of pain was coming, and I really had to like mentally psych myself up for it. So that was their one option, was giving me the nipple shield. I forgot to mention what else they had given me. So then they gave me this feeding tube, this syringe that holds 20 mils. This is what they gave me. So I would have to pump the milk or express it with my hand into this syringe, which would probably take a long time. Attach it to the tube, and then you kind of like put your finger along that, and they suck your finger, but they're actually sucking the food out of the syringe, or you slowly syringe it and you like finger feed them. Like, oh my gosh. So first I have to like pump or somehow get the milk out, put it in this syringe, and then finger feed my baby. And just the idea of doing that, exhausted me. So my mom came over that afternoon, and I was just telling her what they said and how like I didn't know how I was gonna feed Rhys, like it was so painful. And so she told me she was gonna go and rent me a breast pump, and she just told me that, you know, I need to pump every now and then, and so nurse him maybe one feeding and give him a bottle for the next one, just for a couple weeks, just so my nipples can get used to it, and to give them a little bit of a break, because the nursing every 20 minutes was just, it was killing me. Like it hurt so bad. So this is the Medela Symphony, and I still have it. And so we rented just this, and then you buy like all the pieces that go along with it. The first time using this, I was really terrified because I was in so much pain every time I nursed, and I was so scared that it was gonna hurt like even more because it'd be sucking, and I was really terrified of using it. But my mom was there with me, and she turned it on to the lowest speed, and I tried it out, and it hurt, but it wasn't as bad as nursing. So I was like, okay, this gives me a little bit of a break. What I did that day and the next day is I would nurse Rhys for 2 feedings, and then I didn't want to do it every other one because I was worried again about nipple confusion. And I don't know why, but emotionally, like, I couldn't handle feeding him the bottle because I really wanted to breastfeed him. I really wanted him on the breast, and I really didn't like giving him the bottle. And that's just my own personal thing. Everybody's different, but that's just how I felt, and I had a really hard time with it because I felt so connected to the connection I had while breastfeeding. And everybody's different, but that's just how it was for me, and it wasn't something I could control. It was like an emotional just feeling that I had. But I had to give myself a break. I had to let myself heal up a little bit. So what I did is I would, like I said, breastfeed for 2 feedings. So basically like 2 hours of breastfeeding, and then pump and give him about 3 or 4 ounces in that bottle. And then the next feeding go back to 2. So 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1. So it was helping me emotionally and mentally from like just the sheer agony and anxiety about the pain. And also I think it really did help me feeling wise. It helped me heal up a little bit, and just the break was really good for me. And so the nurses came back 2 days later, so on day 7 of Rhys being born, the nurses came back to take out my staples. I updated them on what I had been doing with the pump and what happened with the nipple shield, and they said they'd never heard of that ever happening before. And they were like, okay, that doesn't work for you. And basically the only option they had for me was to keep doing the pumping. They said that was good, and to wait to talk to my doctor to see if he was lip tied, which they still thought that he was. So if you're still around after that video, then thank you so much for watching. And I didn't actually realize how many details and how much information I had about my breastfeeding experience. When I started the video, I thought it would be about 15 minutes long and that would be it. But it turns out I need more time to talk about everything. So this video was actually just the first week of breastfeeding. So it's kind of like a part 1 of what I had filmed. And I ended up splitting up the other section. So then the next video will be my breastfeeding from week 2 up until about 7 months. In that video, you'll find out kind of what the problem was. What we ended up finding out was making it so hard to breastfeed and making it so painful. And I also want to say that I hope this video didn't discourage you too much. There is a happy ending to the story. So please subscribe, and then you'll be able to know when we post that part 2 video, which is going to explain everything else. And then there might even be a part 3 where I kind of do an 8-month update because Rhys is 8 months old now. So then I'll just talk about in what situation we're in now today. But anyways, as always, it's Vlogmas, and if you haven't been following along in Vlogmas, I have a countdown to Christmas sort of advent calendar, and in that calendar I get a new tea every single day. So let's get to that part of the video where we open our new tea. Just trying to set this up for you. Okay, so here's our calendar, and today is day 9 of Vlogmas, so that's the one we're gonna be opening. So what we've got today is Forever Nuts. It's a fruit infusion and it's caffeine free. There's our tea. It looks very nutty, looks very fruity. And I actually have tried this one before. It's really good. My sister always makes it, and I'm pretty sure it's the one that after you steep it and you add milk to it, it turns a really beautiful pink color. Oopsie, I almost dropped it and I would have got the tea all over the floor. Thank you guys so much for watching. And again, please subscribe to our channel so you know when we post that part 2 of my breastfeeding kind of story. And if this isn't really your thing or you're not interested in it, then still please subscribe so you can see our other videos, because this isn't all we make videos about. We do lots of different things. And since it's Vlogmas, then I guess we'll be seeing you guys tomorrow. Bye!